As I was sitting there listening to speeches, I looked around this wonderful room, and I know we'll have a chance to see some of the other rooms in this state-of-the-art Boys and Girls Club, number 2000 Boys and Girls Club. I thought to myself, I see all that steel, I see all that cinder block work and electrical work and air conditioning work. And it takes about this much stuff to make a jail. It's about what it would take. And that's what we've been doing too much of in recent years. We've been using this kind of material and treasure to build jails, to put our children in eventually. No other civilized nation in the world has as many people in jail as we have in jail. So we need more mentors. We need more places like this, where the community comes together and says to the young people of the community, and especially in this neighborhood here, we care about you. Because you see, what these young people are seeing, not just a nice place to play basketball or in the computer room to run a software program. They don't see steel and cinder blocks alone. What they see are people who care about them. What they see are people who love them. What they see are people who have expectations of them and about them and will not let them fail. We do not have anything more important to do than to protect youngsters like this and put them on the road to success. The choice is very simple. We either build our children or we build more jails. It's time to stop building jails and get back to what we know how to do as Americans, and that's to build our children.
Welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. The reason why I play that so often is that the Boys and Girls Club of Harlem is very dear to my heart. I've been on the board of directors for 18 years. And in this fall, we'll be opening up a new club. So we're going to try and stop this whole development of school to prison pipeline. And as you see on my show, at least once a month, we have Victor Pate. Is that correct, Victor Pate?
Victor Pate, that's
Victor
correct this time.
I'm always saying his name. He just mentioned that. Anyway, and Julian Guerro.
He did good.
I just got it. And of course, early this week, 2 minutes past 5, co-host Graham Weatherspoon. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. As you see General Powell talking about the same stuff it takes to build a prison can build a Boys and Girls Club. And we see a lot of our kids not getting an education today and going to prison faster than ever. And we have more people incarcerated than any place else on the planet. And I understand that you knew Khalif Browder's brother?
Yes, I know him.
And
right
we're going to play a piece on him a little later, but give me an idea of how you two met. I guess it was after his brother committed suicide?
Yes, it was. It certainly was. Khalif spent 3 years on Rikers Island without a right to a trial, basically just there. His family could not afford bail, so he was like many other...
It was $10,000?
I believe so.
For stealing a backpack?
For allegedly stealing a backpack. It was his word against the criminal justice system, the police officer at the time, who said that he had, done such a thing, and he spent 3 years on Rikers without trial, and a lot of that time, at least 2 of those years, in solitary confinement.
What is it? We talk about this a lot of the times about what an adult goes through and being in solitary confinement. But this young man went in at 16 years old.
Yes, sir.
Now, what sort of well, eventually, 5 years later, he committed suicide because of all the drama or demons that approached him in the night, I imagine. So, give us an idea how this affected his brother.
So, Akeem actually worked on Rikers.
Akeem?
Yeah,
Akeem is Khalif's brother?
Yes. Khalif's brother.
He worked on...
He worked on Rikers, I believe, as an engineer, not as a correctional officer.
Okay.
And so
While he was there?
while Khalif was there, incarcerated.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so it was very, I believe, very devastating for Akeem to not be able to
man.
interact with his brother, and at times, you know, he has regrets about some of that, which is,
Ooh, this
I'm
is
sure,
heavy.
right, which is, I'm sure, why, you know, the way I met Akeem was through the, you know, social justice activism that he's doing now to get justice for his brother, for his family, from the city of New York, who incarcerated his brother for so long without, you know, once again, without a right to a trial, or a speedy trial, I should say. And, you know, Khalif was let go after 3 years with no sort of reparation for being held in that time on Rikers. And so Akeem has been, you know, just determined to get justice, determined to not only fight for justice for his family and for Khalif, but now for all New Yorkers who have to deal with Rikers Island, and many New Yorkers do.
They have parents, mother and father?
Yes, his mother has been speaking everywhere and anywhere she gets an opportunity to bring, you know, awareness to this case and to this issue.
And the father?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too familiar with where the father is, or
So
if he's
this,
involved.
we bring this up to the point that, you know, not only does the prisoner go to prison, but the family goes to prison, because everybody's affected by this.
Yes, absolutely.
It's amazing.
There was a press conference on this afternoon regarding an inmate who is now paralyzed. And they're talking about the lack of medical treatment and medical care in Rikers Island.
Right.
Sanford Rubenstein was on with the family, and the son is paralyzed. He's laying in a hospital bed somewhere, and the Department of Correction failed to give him the medical treatment that he needed. Subsequently, he cannot walk.
As a result of the prolonged lack of medical
Lack
care.
of care, yes. And I just caught part of it this afternoon, and I'm sure it'll be on the news again tonight. It's important that we take note of this, because nothing happens in isolation.
Right.
Any and everything in life is connected to everybody. And the loss of a young man, and you said how many years did he spend in solitary?
3. 2 years, at least 2 years in solitary.
2. So he was beaten by the correction officers, beaten by inmates, put into solitary, all because he tried to advocate for himself.
Right.
And
He was a little guy.
and little guy, you know, it's not something that we can look at lightly. A lot of times people say, oh, well, he must have done something wrong. And this was a case where he hadn't done anything wrong. And part of the egregiousness of this is that the district attorney, in failing to present a case, did not even release him.
Right.
There are a lot of cases, and there, you know, when I was a detective, I saw some of this manipulation going on, and I got into some flack with some supervisors in my standing up for the defendant. You can't just summarily put somebody away because you want to close a case or you think he did it. You got to know that the person did it. And there is a way that oftentimes detectives will lead a victim into saying that that's the guy. Or on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the closest, well, maybe a 7 or an 8, that doesn't work.
No.
You can't say maybe. You either have to be sure that that is the person or that is not the person. And a lot of times, detectives have led or enticed the victim to make a statement with regard to an identification that was false.
Has there ever been a case where you were wrong about somebody that you picked up?
No. No, I'm serious. I have never lost a case.
I mean, was there ever a time you picked up somebody that was innocent?
Oh, wait, yeah, there was a guy.
Okay.
There was a guy, a young lady picked out, it was in an assault case. And we were doing an area search, and she said, that's him, that's him. It was the following day. The guy would come through that area.
Right.
And we brought him in took him in the office, in the muster room, sat him down, and the young lady, in seeing him in better light, she started crying. And I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "That's not the guy."
Okay.
So I said, "It's okay."
All right.
We've detained him about 15 minutes, and the guy worked at, I think he worked at, he was the concierge at the Waldorf Astoria, one of the big hotels. You know, he has business cards and everything on him, but we detained him for about maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and he understood. He said, "Hey, you know, you guys didn't rough me up. You know, he says, I hope you get the guy that beat the girl up." So she was crying, and she felt so bad that she had misidentified this man. But we didn't do any paperwork. We did the stop, you know, the stop and frisk. We did that because we brought him into the command. We didn't handcuff him or anything. But he was understanding, and he went on his way. And with that case, that case was closed, because when you identify somebody wrongly, it tells us you really can't identify the person. See, and we can't take a chance on you saying, "Well, no, it's not him, it's him." See, so we automatically closed the case.
So what happened to the victim in that case?
She just went on with her life. But when you do a misidentification like that, we cannot rely upon her as a credible witness. See, so it's not just about getting the arrest. It's about getting the right person. Once you got the right person,
how many times has this happened, though? How many times?
I'd just like to just say something. Just speaking to what you were speaking about, especially about the identification part, and a personal thing that happened to me. I was picked up. At the time, I was on parole. As a matter of fact, I went to visit my parole officer, and as I was about to leave, slapped me on the desk, threw the handcuffs on me, and told me that the police were looking for me. And I said, "I'm looking for me for what?" "Oh, they just said they were looking for you for the yada yada yada." Called the detectives from the 3-2 precinct, came down to the parole office, took me back to the precinct, and says to me, "We were looking for you." Now, mind you, as a parolee, you know where I work, you know where I live. And when I asked, "Well, how long was you looking?" "Oh, we were looking for your colleague." "Well, I've been at the same residence, worked at the same job. You could have came and got me at any time. Why you come and get me now?" Here's my point. They put me in a lineup, and whomever it was behind that glass identified me as the perpetrator. Now, all this time, they still ain't told me what I was supposed to have done. Well, mind you, my jacket is robberies. So when I asked them, "What am I being arrested for, and who's identifying me, and what is it that I have done?" So they said, "Oh, you took somebody's pocketbook." I just looked at him like incredulous. I'm not a pocketbook thief. I'm a stick-up man. When I come for your money, I'm coming for your money. I'm not coming for no pocket. So I was identified as the perpetrator when I asked him, "Well, what did I take?" "Oh, well, don't worry about it. That'll all come out in court." Fortunately, I was arraigned the next day, right? At the time, I was involved with different organizations. That was my early exposure to doing organizing work. And I happened to be a guest speaker in the Harlem State Office building at a forum that night. At the time, allegedly, they said this incident happened at 6 o'clock. Well, I was there at 5 o'clock, and I was one of the speakers, and I was there till 8 o'clock, signing, and everybody knew I was there. Flyers with my name and everything on it, right? They didn't notice at the time. But what I'm saying is this, and that speaks to this identification process. Had I not been able to have an alibi to prove where I was at this particular time, whoever this person was identified me as the one who did this robbery. Ain't no telling what would have happened to me. So that just speaks to our system in terms of the many, many flaws that are still prevalent. Prime example, Khalif Browder.
What happened to this person that identified Khalif Browder as being the thief that the perpetrator or the
victim?
The victim.
Whose backpack it was.
Right.
That had his backpack stolen.
I'm not too sure whatever happened to that person. You know, Khalif, when he was arrested, he was told, "Oh, you're just going to spend some time, answer some questions," and he just got caught up in the system. And before you know it, he's, you know, months straight.
So he didn't know how to speak up for himself.
I mean, I think
he was 16.
He was 16. You know, it's an incredibly intimidating and frightening experience to be arrested.
Was he sexually molested?
No, I don't. I don't
You
think
don't?
so. I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I haven't. At least there have not been any reports of that, and I don't think the family has said anything to that degree. But what it was is that I
Well, he was
think
beaten up, that's enough.
right. I think the majority of the times in this city, as Mayor De Blasio has pointed out himself, we have a tale of two cities that's becoming very visible here in New York City. And Rikers represents really, I think, the epitome of a tale of two cities, where the majority, something like 85% of the people on Rikers haven't been charged with a crime. 79% of them cannot afford bail. You know, we do outreach to people who travel on the M100, or I believe it's the Q100, that travels to Rikers, and I would speak to a lot of folks who are on their way over to visit their family. And I would ask them, so who are you visiting? Oh, my husband, and he's been there for 11 months. Has he been found guilty of anything? No, not guilty of anything. He's been accused, but there hasn't been a trial system or process quite yet for him. So.
And technically, you're not supposed to be on Rikers more than a year.
Oh, is that right?
If you're found guilty.
If you're found guilty,
Right.
Because
they're
they send you
supposed to move you upstate.
Right.
But in this case, with Khalif, D.A. Johnson, his people, see, one of the problems with the DAs is that they do not want to dismiss a case when it's evident that the case should be dismissed. If you don't have the capability to move forward, what they do, they'll argue some point or ask for an adjournment of the case. And that might be another 6 weeks, it might be another 8 weeks. And then they'll seek another adjournment on this grounds or
Well, how
on that
about the
grounds.
seriousness of the case?
The point is this. DAs do not want to show that they dismissed the case
Right.
when they had him for stealing a backpack. It was
Yeah,
either
I
a
mean,
grand larceny or a robbery, a felony crime. They don't want to admit that the case is a bad case. All right? Once you get down the road, I had cases, robbery cases. Officer brings somebody in, somebody comes in, oh, I got robbed at gunpoint, blah, 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 and I'm investigating the case, and I'm like, it's not adding up. And once I can determine and prove, and I have done this, that the individual that was arrested didn't commit the robbery, now I'm looking at the person that said he did it.
Right.
See, because you're falsely accusing somebody,
Yeah.
and that's a crime. All right?
How
So
often do they go to jail?
they generally don't.
They don't.
It's only a misdemeanor.
To
But
falsely accuse somebody?
yeah, it's a misdemeanor. But I'm not gonna see a person go to prison for a crime they didn't commit.
Right.
And I've proven that people at times did not commit the crime. So it's very important that the district attorney's office in any county in this country ardently knows that the case that they have before them is a credible case. There's no reason to keep stalling and stalling and stalling a case. You're denying a person their due process.
Right.
It shouldn't take a person 3 years before the DA says, oh, well, you can go home now. What is that? They knew they didn't have a case. Whether the complainant decided, well, I just picked them out because they wanted me to pick somebody out or whatever, and now that person refuses to come to court and is now not only unreliable, they are not willing to participate in the process. So if you have no complainant, you have no crime.
That's right.
But they will never admit that something is wrong and just say, in the interest of justice.
Right.
Yeah. I heard
There is
that
no
before.
justice. There is no
I heard
interest
that
in the
before.
justice. All right? That person's fingerprints should be expunged. Their photographs should be pulled from the system. And your photographs go to the FBI.
That's right.
Your photographs
And
go
your
to the
prints.
state police in Albany. And they're at BCI in One Police Plaza. And the DA should have a court order from the judge notifying the detective to take any copies of those photos and destroy them, and they can never be used again, and also to have the negative destroyed in One Police Plaza, and the same goes to Albany and to the FBI. But they don't do that.
All right, you know what we're going to do? I don't know if people aren't talking about Susan Bland enough for me. And I just want to review this other obnoxious case, and maybe we'll go into another one after this. But do me a favor, run that case on Susan Bland, which is a very sad case where suicide's involved, supposedly. All right?
We're going to get the latest now on Sandra Bland, arrested after that routine traffic stop earlier this month, then found dead in her jail cell 3 days later. This morning we're hearing her voice from jail, learning more about her past. Her sister standing by for an exclusive interview after all the latest from ABC's Ryan Smith. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, George. Sandra Bland's phone call from jail shows her frustration with how a minor traffic incident could have landed her in a cell, but a jail intake form noting a previous suicide attempt that could raise more questions in this mysterious case.
This morning, a newly released recording of Sandra Bland leaving this message for a friend the day after her arrest from behind bars.
I'm still just at a loss for words, honestly, about this whole process. How did switching lanes with no signal turn into all of this?
That call, obtained by our Houston station KTRK, taking place just hours after Sandra went before a judge. Her bail set at $5,000. She was working to raise that money. The local sheriff shedding new light on their statement that Sandra Bland committed suicide, releasing this intake form from the day Bland was jailed with a startling admission. She attempted suicide within the last year. But to the question, are you thinking about killing yourself today? Sandra answering no, raising new questions about jailers' decision to house her alone in this cell. She was charged with assaulting a public service officer, stemming from this arrest caught on police dash cam video, starting as a routine traffic stop.
Well, the reason for your stop is you failed to signal your lane change.
Within minutes.
You mind putting out your cigarette, please? Don't mind.
I'm in my car, but I have to put out my cigarette.
Escalating into this.
Get out of the car!
And then
I will light you up. Get out!
Wow.
Now!
Wow.
Get out of the car!
Really? Failure to signal. You doing all of this for
Get over there!
Sandra's family outraged over the tape, urging supporters to continue the fight for justice.
Keep tweeting, keep Facebooking, keep utilizing the hashtag Justice for Sandy.
Now, that jail intake form telling different stories. At another point to the question of attempted suicide, the answer is no on the investigation on her death, despite reports that an initial autopsy of Sandra Bland was defective and another one is needed, while our county authorities reportedly claim it wasn't and a second autopsy is not planned. Still no word on when the autopsy report will be released.
Now, you know what was very interesting to me? This one was a real activist. She had this Facebook page, Sandra Speaks. I had several different items of her speaking. And out of any reasonable mind, you can't see how a person like this could commit suicide.
Right.
All right? Now, all of us doubt that she committed suicide, all right? But why would they kill her? You know, that doesn't make sense either, does it? Oh, give me your thoughts.
It's a brutal system that we live under, unfortunately, because it's you know, even in New York City, there is, you know, there's a back and forth on whether or not there are quotas for police officers, and you know, Police Commissioner Bratton says no, there aren't any quotas, but actually there's a class action lawsuit right now in the works, where a lot, I believe 12 to 13 police officers, minorities who, I don't really like to use the term minorities in a city where people of color are the majority, yes. But where people of color, 12 people of color officers who say, yes, there's still a quota system.
Yeah, Graham's part of that suit.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm not a part of the suit. I've been working
Well,
with some of the
a lot
officers
of
in
the
the
people.
case.
Absolutely.
And there will be an investigative report.
Yeah, you had an update on that.
Tomorrow, yes, tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. on Channel 4. Sarah Wallace has an extensive interview with all of the officers in that case. So that'll be on tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock. But, you know, getting back to Sandra,
could that sort of isolation driven an activist
well, I'm
to
going to give you a
suicide?
case. I was at the scene of a suicide in a cell, in a holding cell in Brooklyn years ago. I was there doing an investigation. My partner and I had come there to do a robbery investigation, and a rookie police officer arrested somebody for grand larceny. The guy stole a lady's pocketbook. He
Grand
caught him,
larceny.
caught the guy, had him in the cell. Now, the desk officer is responsible for the search of the prisoner, but the desk officers never search the prisoners, it's the police officer. The guy had on paratrooper boots, and his laces were not taken out of the boots. So the desk officer and the police officer are liable for that. We're in an office and we hear somebody screaming, he's hanging up, oh my God. We come out and everybody's running around and I see them run to the cells and I get to the desk and I see a body hanging from the electrical conduit overhead. I go to the desk, I get the keys because I said it might help if we get the keys, gentlemen. Lock the cell, my partner and I go in, we cut the guy down. The guy is dead. He's dead. He hanged himself with the leather laces from his jump boots. Now the arresting officer was sitting no more than 10 feet from that man when he did it. He's sitting at a desk directly in front of the cell. He has his head down doing his paperwork. He never looked up. Now,
What caused the person to commit suicide?
well, that's what we'll get to. He never looked up. He's just in his paperwork doing the paperwork. When you arrest somebody, you're responsible for their welfare.
Okay.
I had a guy try to commit suicide on me after I arrested him. He jumped in the tracks in front of the A train. But this guy, I said to the officer, I said, if we can't revive this guy, I'm going to kill you in here. Because I don't need my name involved in some scenario where a prisoner has been hanged in a holding cell. And we were able to revive the guy, got an ambulance, and they took him to the hospital. But he was flatlined when we cut him down. We had a hard time getting, because the ligature was all the way up under the neck, and we literally cut his neck, cutting the leather thong off his neck. But the officer said, well, I was doing the paperwork. I said, the paperwork is not more important than you watching your prisoner.
Why would he want to commit suicide?
We don't know. I don't know. He wasn't my prisoner. At that point, the thing that I was most concerned with was getting breath back into that guy. We got that. They got an ambulance. But the guy when my guy jumped in front of the A train, he had been to Rikers and he said he wasn't going back.
Excellent.
Right?
He knew what he was going back.
Said he wasn't going
I don't
back.
blame him.
So anybody else here thinks Sandra Bland committed suicide? I mean, you and I did a show with Brother Perkins on here where and Brother Perkins, Senator Perkins hadn't heard about the case. And we played the playback of Sandy Speaks. And it was so emotional to hear this woman speak about her life and how she had been dealing with being an activist. There was no way possible you could think she could commit suicide.
There was a case in the late 60s, North Carolina. A young lady killed a jailer. I can't remember where, and I can't remember her name. It was in the late 60s. I was in North Carolina, and it was the buzz, you know. And I'm in a store, and a white man says, what do you think about that girl that killed that? I said, she sure killed him. She should have. He was trying to sexually assault her in the jail. And she killed him. The girl was only about 17, 18. I can't remember her name. And I said to the white people in the store, I said, where I come from, a man has no business in a woman's cell in the middle of the night.
Okay.
All right? I said, and undoubtedly that guy has been doing that for a period of time. Well, she put an end to it. She put an end to everything with regard to him. Things go on in prison. Rapes happen in prison. Homicides happen in prison. Assaults happen in prison. People lose their minds in prison. All kinds of things happen in prison. And as I said in the beginning of that case, a plastic bag in a garbage pail, you don't have anything in the cell that a person can utilize or facilitate their own demise. That's why they don't have belts.
Why would they kill her?
That's the point. That's a question you can ask 1,000 questions. There are 1,000 answers, and to this day we don't really know what. The only thing we know is that she is deceased.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that the popular belief is that she didn't cause her own self to become deceased by whatever means that they, talk about, her talking or whatever the case may be. I think that it's, the little bit of information that we do have at this particular point, I think the popular belief, and anybody with any reasonable mind can say that that woman did not kill herself. Now, the reason why she got killed is yet to be investigated. Right. And I think that there's a lot more investigation and a lot more deeper digging that needs to be made. But I really think, that people are really not that gullible. Right. I mean, I think it's an insult, to even try to feed and even make people believe that she committed suicide. For what purpose? Right. We've seen the tape of her. She was a community activist, and I'm quite sure in just being a community activist, of course, there's going to be certain entities that are not going to like you for being who you are and for doing what you are doing and for exposing what you are exposing. Right. But I don't think
my point about this is the depression of being isolated. How it could even work on a mind that strong, which it just gives a little indication of solitary confinement and what it's like to be, put away in a cell and just being dismissed on a jive tip like that. Right. But we're going to go a little further on jive tips and talk about the Staten Island case, which to me is the most obnoxious miscarriage of justice that I can think of. The Eric Gardner case. And let's roll that clip and we'll all watch it again and watch really, this is pathetic that these people are still, what was his name?
Pantaleo.
Pantaleo is still walking around and not in jail.
You wait on hard way for what? Every time you see me, you want to mess with me. I'm tired of it. It stops today.
This guy right here is forcibly trying to lock somebody up for breaking up a fight.
Everybody standing here, they told you I didn't do nothing. I did not sell nothing. Because every time you see me, you want to harass me, you want to stop me, trying to sell cigarettes. I'm minding my business, officer. I'm minding my business. Please just leave me alone. I told you the last time, please just leave me alone. Please don't touch me. Don't touch me, please.
Hold on.
Don't touch me, please.
Came over.
Do not touch me.
Damn, man. Alright, stop. Give your hands, buddy. Put your hand behind your back. I can't breathe. Once again, police beating up on people. Back up right here. Back up and get on that step. Okay. Back up. All he did was break up a fight. And this is what happens for breaking up a fight. This shit is crazy. Everybody back up, He can't breathe. Look, now, man, they gave this man a seizure.
Yo, move out the way. Yo.
It's my brother. We live here.
Back up this way. Everybody now back up. It's now going to become a crisis. Back it up. Back it up.
I'm going to my house.
No. This way. Let's go.
Can't go to my
house or that way?
All right, I'll go that way.
Pick a choice.
Let me get my bike.
You had your chance to get your bike, sir. Staying over there right now. We haven't seen you.
My brother right there. He was just breaking up a fight. He's all right. He's good. It has nothing to do with the fight. It has something to do with something else.
2 police officers are now on desk duty following the...
As you know, the guy in green is Pantaleo.
Yes.
Now, this guy obviously had a case before against Eric Gardner. Eric Gardner and him had a beef. So Pantaleo stood there for a good 10, 15 minutes waiting for backup. And we actually watched a murder on videotape. That's a murder right there. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. What's so really criminal is he's accused of selling Lucy cigarettes. Now, how petty can you get? We talk about backpacks, changing lanes. Now you're talking about Lucy cigarettes, of all things. And a man's murdered on videotape. And what happens to the police officer? He's still walking around? Now, what's the state of our police? I mean, what about this one? Now, you want to really get upset about something. We just watched a man murdered on videotape. We just watched a man, I mean, really?
Right.
And what are we doing about it?
I think this video also demonstrates the sort of the inability of cameras on police officers also in stopping incidents such as these. And I think going back to, you know, Sandra Bland, Eric Garner, Khalif Browder, these people would still be alive today if they had not been pulled over for, you know, not signaling.
Backpack.
Yeah, or not being accused of a backpack, or, you know, not having, or selling loose cigarettes, allegedly selling loose cigarettes. And I think the other aspect of this is that there's impunity. I think the anger that many Americans feel around the criminal justice system is the impunity that there is for these kinds of acts, and no justice for the families. And I think, you know, we see it here in the city. There's such a veneration of police officers. A police officer falls down, breaks a knee or something like that, and there's a press conference, the mayor speaking that same night, and there's this entire show. But a worker who's working on a high-rise or a crane falls and the crane operator dies, there's nothing for that person. So there's a way that the city itself is giving more support or credence or institutional backing to certain workers over others. And I think, you know, I think part of it also is not just simply the police officer on the street, on the beat, doing this. I think it's the prosecutor. I think it's the politician. You know, these are all people who work together. They're all co-workers. You know, it's difficult. I think Jon Stewart said it once. It's difficult to expect a prosecutor to hold a police officer accountable when he's probably been to that person's baby shower, you know, 2 weeks before. And they all collaborate. They're all working together. And, you know, I think it's not simply the police officer or even the laws. But let's be critical. I think even the laws that are passed at City Hall, who passes these laws? To what benefit are these laws in existence for? And to me, it seems it's, you know, in a city where even the mayor speaks about a tale of two cities. It seems to me that the rich and powerful pass certain laws to maintain that. And those laws are what we are, you know, we feel, what we see, what we have to endure in many neighborhoods, especially communities of color, where race and class overlap tremendously.
You know, I happen to be part of National Action Network, both Victor and I. That's our Saturday church with Reverend Sharpton. And up and coming, April 13th, we're going to have a convention at Sheraton, April 13th through the 16th.
Right.
And Hillary's going to be there, Bernie's going to be there, and maybe next week we'll have some people on from NAN and we'll talk about that. But, you know, I've seen some cases since I've been there. I've been there 18 years. I go back to Amadou Diallo and all the whole litany of problems we've had fighting for justice. But this Eric Gardner thing, I mean, this is just beyond me. I mean, what we just watched was a murder.
Yeah, part of the outrage is not just in the public servants. It's in the public itself. I've always said that cops come from the society. And when your society is screwed up, your cops are going to be screwed up. When your society is debased, your cops are going to be debased. So we can't be surprised by any of this. And I was talking with my pastor the other day, and I said, you know, I wasn't drafted into the department. I volunteered. Therefore, I must be held to a higher standard. I'm not John Q. Citizen. I said, matter of fact, a police officer, a teacher, a clergyman, a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, those are critical positions in society because you're dealing with people's lives. And you should be held accountable for screwing up and messing up people's lives. And there should be no slack in it. Throw the book at them and put them under the jail and break the key. There's no excuse that I had a bad day. There's no excuse, oh, the stairway was dark and I had my gun in my hand. None of that crap.
Right.
That is absolute insanity, and it is a blatant disregard for human life. And they should be handled as such, prosecuted, and sentenced. All right? That's not a mistake.
How is Pate getting away with this? And the black sergeant who was in charge?
You got to remember, the crooked DA, O'Connor, I think, O'Donnell, whatever his name was, in Staten Island.
Who went on to Congress.
He didn't get an indictment. He didn't intend to get an indictment.
Right. But he went on to Congress, right?
Then the congressman who was the former Green Beret, who got convicted of felony crimes, he had to resign and went to prison, and then the DA ran and took his position in Congress. So you had a corrupt congressman, you had a corrupt DA who is now another corrupt congressman sitting in the U.S. Congress, and you've got a new DA in Staten Island.
And this is upstate, up south, Staten Island.
Then we got rid of Johnson in the Bronx, and we've got DA, I believe her name is Williams now.
Right.
And the former DA Johnson is now serving as a judge.
Johnson. Okay.
So
round and around.
That is something to consider. But hopefully the Bronx County will be better handled and better serviced by the present DA than they were under Johnson.
Tell us about what's happening out in Brooklyn. Kai Gurley case.
Oh, man.
I had a video on that, too. But this,
we had the trial, the conviction, waiting for sentencing next month, I believe it is.
Right.
Unfortunately, DA Ken Thompson came out and said last week that he would recommend that the officer not serve time, got 5 years probation and house arrest, which is beyond me.
Sacrificial lamb.
Now, you're in the process of...
He's a sacrificial lamb.
He's not a sacrificial lamb. See, people get into these grooves, and this is where the Asian community got it wrong. They think that because we had a crooked DA in Brooklyn, that the same process should continue regardless of who the cop is. No, you're not being burned and you're not being tried because you're Asian. You're being tried because there's a different DA in town. All right? That's number one. You're being tried because you screwed up big time. You killed somebody when you had no business killing anybody.
He should have never had his gun out.
It wasn't an accident. It was negligible homicide.
Because he should have never had his pistol out.
You're in a residential building. What is the probability that you might see somebody? High probability. You're in an apartment building. So there is no criminal condition, there's no life-threatening condition for you to take your weapon out. What should be in your hand is your flashlight and only your flashlight.
Why were they in the hallway?
They were doing the vertical patrols, doing inspections of the building. But
was there any reason for them to have their gun
down? There was no
down?
criminal condition, none at all.
No criminal condition.
Another thing, they're hiring people that are scared. All right?
That's right.
They weren't chasing a robber
They
with
weren't
a gun.
chasing anybody. Just walking around.
Routine patrol.
Scared. All right? So here's this Asian guy scared with a gun. That's like giving a drunk the keys to the car to get on the West Side Highway.
And he had how many years on the gun? How many years on the job?
The two of them were rookies. That's another thing. And oh wait, let me go back to that because Bratton says they're going to assign training officers. Hello, wake up call. We've always had training officers. We had training officers in New York before Bratton ever got here. This is nothing new. So for him to say we're going to do this, BS. BS. Police officers who are experienced work with a rookie. They get what's called SA pay. It's an SA special assignment. That police officer is paid a higher rate of pay than the other police officers because he's being paid to teach the rookie.
Right.
It's an SA assignment. So the rookie goes out with a seasoned guy. When I was a rookie, I went out with a seasoned guy. I didn't go out by myself.
So you got 2 rookies together.
You got 2 rookies. Big time no-no. So Bratton is acting like they came up with a new idea. They're going to assign a rookie with a seasoned officer. That's the way it's always been. So take that crap and go somewhere with it.
Why was 2 rookies together like that?
That's a good question. A lot of things are done that shouldn't be done. And then when it backfires in somebody's face, they're trying to cover it up instead of saying, we were wrong from the beginning. We were wrong sending 2 men out, 2 rookies out. We were wrong. It never should have been on the roll call. So they need to go back, whoever the desk officer was, whoever did that roll call assignment, they need to.
So I mean, this police officer going through a routine vertical patrol with his gun out, the 2 of them had their guns out.
There's nothing routine
Opening the
about
door with the gun in their hand. I had a video showing all this. Opening the door with a gun in their hand and a flashlight in the other one. Right? Going through the hallways. Now, the gun goes off, supposedly, and hits a guy down on the next level. Well, they show this in the video.
It doesn't, the video, they put that video
Well, whoever
together,
put it together.
right? They lie about that. Okay.
The scenario. We
And they
know
got the
they're
best
all
technology to
lies,
do it
but,
with.
You know?
But the whole point is, the injustice reigns supreme. And the biggest comedy to me today is Donald Trump. So I just think...
What does he have to do with this conversation?
Well, bring him up anyway, right?
Forget about Donald Trump. He's an idiot. We don't even talk about him. He has too much airtime as it is. Forget about Donald Trump. Let's get back to what's serious.
Well, here's something. Here's something that's serious. And my colleague Julian is one of the organizers. And I know everybody's been hearing the rumblings and the noise about closing Rikers.
Right.
Rikers Island, it should be called Torture Island. When I was there, it was bad. 30 years later, it's bad. 30 years later, it's worse. And it's at an all-time worst now. With all of the incidents that have been reported and not reported, of all of the beatings, of all of the slashings, of all of the corruption, of all of the drugs, and all of the stuff that's been going on that they've been well aware of for years. Now it's finally coming to real light what's actually been happening on Rikers Island. And that Rikers Island is a torture hellhole that should be closed. My colleague Julian here is with the Shutdown Rikers Coalition, and him and I I've been at a few meetings with him and the colleagues, right? And there's a lot of light on Rikers Island now, a lot of light on the correction officers. A lot of them are being charged with corruption and crimes and rapes and tortures and beatings and everything that you can possibly think of that they're supposed to be protecting and watching over and guarding these supposed people, some of them being held, like Khalif Browder, for long periods of time, being charged for charges that really, as you pointed out, should be dismissed. Their rights being totally disregarded, right to speedy trial. How do you hold a person on Rikers Island for years and not have some type of disposition? What happened to the right to speedy trial? How does that happen? You know what I'm saying? So these type of questions and society, the people, the citizens should be asking, what about the rights of the people that are accused? What about the rights to be treated fairly? What about the rights to be treated humanely and not being beat up, not being put in solitary confinement for nothing just about because an officer doesn't like you or don't like the way you speak, don't like the way you look, and you wind up in solitary confinement and then you wind up dead? Or you wind up damaged so severely that when you come back out, you can't function in society.
That's right.
And tragically, like Khalif Browder, you take your own life. What about all these atrocities? So we have to really take a look at Rikers Island now and look at what needs to be done about Rikers Island. It needs to be shut down.
Absolutely.
It needs to be totally shut down. It needs to be turned into a school, a training facility where people can learn jobs.
Let's keeping it real. you have to have a place.
Put
Where are you going to detain people if you don't have a detention center? There has to be a place to detain people. So they're not going to just shut Rikers Island down.
No, definitely there's a process.
Because you have to have a place to detain people. And of course people say, well, I don't want a prison in my neighborhood. I don't want a prison in my neighborhood, you know. Or they built one in Brownsville where they were supposed to build a high school. They put a prison there. And the people said, what the heck is this? Oh, well, this way you don't have to go all the way, you know, to Rikers Island. You can visit your family members here. So we're not building a school.
Here's a question for you,
We build
Graham.
a prison. That's what they did in Brownsville.
Here's a question for you, Graham. How do you treat the people that are wrong, the murderers? I mean, the people that really do the crimes. You know, everybody in Rikers Island is not innocent.
I've sat
There's
with
some
murderers.
really guys in there that deserve to be in there and deserve to die for their crime, perhaps. All right? What do you do about that? They're mixed up on it, and the people that are not sane.
Well, the people that are insane, that are mentally ill, don't belong in Rikers Island.
But there's so many people in there that are driven insane by this solitary confinement.
Well, if the policies are changed, then people won't go crazy. And we've seen that in some of the others that have come here to talk about the time that they spent in solitary.
Yeah.
So
the guy who spent 45 years in prison?
44.
44 years.
Yeah.
Now, there should be legislation passed on that, where a warden cannot put a person in solitary more than 2 weeks. All right? You can't, a boy 16 years old should not be in solitary confinement.
That's right.
At all. What goes on, the technique of interrogation. I had a guy ask me once, why don't you just beat me? He said, because you're messing with my head. I said, it's what I do. He wanted me to beat him as opposed to, we call it a mind melt. We start digging into your mind, you're going through some problems. And I told the guy, I said, I know you're scared. I'm not scared. No, you're scared. Take your pulse. I read his pulse without touching him. I read his pulse. I said, no, if I can read your pulse. And he wrote down what his pulse was. And I told him what his pulse was. He said, how do you do that? I said, I don't answer questions. I ask them. Now, if I can take your pulse sitting across the room, what makes you think you can compete with me mentally? Now, let's get into what you did. And I grill you, even the way I sit and talk to you, the positioning. There's a reason for the position that I take when I'm talking to you. We study that. We're trained in that. So when you take a 16-year-old boy and put him into a prison scenario.
But you're a good cop. What about the bad cops that do that same thing?
Everybody gets the same training, and they may take it to a different level.
That's what I mean.
But the thing is that a 16-year-old boy should not be in solitary confinement. He should not be put into a position where your mind is damaged. No inmate, I don't care if you're 16 or 60, you should not come out damaged, as we've seen in other interviews that we've done.
That's right.
And this is inhumane.
How do you treat the bad guys?
How do you treat the bad guys? I have taken bad guys to dinner. Because when I'm hungry, I eat. And I don't go to McDonald's. And we've taken guys, look, we're going down here, we're going to get something to eat. And we tell them straight, we only eat in restaurants. We're going in here, we're going to eat. When we get through, you go in central booking, because you know down there they just got cheese and bologna. So we're going to go in here like men, and we're going to sit down and eat. You get stupid, we'll kill you in the restaurant. All right? If you pick up that fork or that knife and it doesn't move right, we'll kill you in the restaurant. And we ain't going to shoot you, but we're going to kill you. All right? We're going to treat you like a man, like a human being. If you want to go John Wayne, you will be with John Wayne tonight. Simple. And I've had people try to kill me. And I haven't killed anybody. I've really hurt them. You know, do what I had to do, no problem doing it. All right? But what I don't do, I sat with a murderer, a young fella, 17. And he did a full video on the homicide. And the DA said, how did you get this? I said,
he did a what?
He did a homicide. It was a shooting, attempted
And did
robbery.
a videotape of the homicide?
Did a videotape of his
mind.
confession, not of the murder, of his confession.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't berate him for being a murderer. He made a mistake which cost the life of another person. But he's still here, and he's going to have to make better decisions from here forward. And I told him, what you have to think about now is after you get out. You can't think about just going in. You have to think about who you want to be when you come out, so that you will not wind up in this situation again. I didn't call him a dog, a dirtbag, or anything like that. I talked to him. I talked to him like a son. And I've sent 16 and 17-year-olds to, not to Rikers, to state prison.
Again, Graham, you're a rare treat.
But this is part of correction.
But see, how many other cops we have out there? Like, you've got to be a 10% of the population of police officers.
Well, then we need more people. We need the right people to enter policing. That's what we need.
Okay.
We need the right people to take the
And
job.
how do we solve the problem at Rikers?
Well, I don't think there's anything that you can't reform a situation or a jail that is about completely taking away everyone's right and empowering certain people to oversee that. I mean, when you create an environment such as that, you're bound to see abuses of human rights. You know, there's a couple words we use to describe Rikers. Victor says a torture hellhole. Some of us have called it a torture chamber. I like to say that it's a factory of human rights violations because of that environment that is created and that situation that's created. I mean, look, I think...
Does it deter crime?
I don't think so. I think it does more damage to poor black and brown communities than it actually helps in any real way. But it's something that was created during a time in this country where it was, we're going to tough on crime, law and order, we're going to lock people up and throw away the key.
Bill Clinton.
Clinton, I mean, it started with Nixon. I think part of it was like, well, you have Goldwater. Johnson spent $10 billion on law enforcement, on training them, on coordinating them, turning them into what we have now is a counterinsurgency force trained for domestic war.
Right.
This is why we have a militarized police across this entire country that reacts to protests for justice in a way that, you know, it's
as a terrorist act.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the SRG, the Strategic Response Group, that was created by de Blasio, the supposed liberal, progressive mayor, who, it's a unit that's created to fight, terrorism and large demonstrations. I don't know how you go from one league to the next, but it's a criminalization.
And they're required to go out and write summonses. Imagine an elite group like that, they're required to go out and write summonses.
When does it have time to do that?
And as usual, we're running out of time.
As usual.
I mean,
thank you for coming.
For sure.
We'll have you on again. And next time, Victor has a monthly slot here. So he always comes up with something interesting. And again, thank you for coming. The God in me loves the God in you. And stay tuned for more of the Gilchrist experience. And hopefully we can do something about injustice in the community. Power to the people. God bless.